Hi everyone, this is another video I have meant to make for a long time. I've watched the Fab 4 interview and I feel that there's a lot of Meghan's behavior that we could already see, and this interview occurred 3 months before their wedding. What I see in this video is self importance, competitiveness, and superiority. I already see that envy of Princess Catherine, and we see her critiquing established structures. So, if this sounds interesting to you, sit back and relax. We're going to get into it. But before we begin, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe. All right, just to set the stage, this occurred in February of 2018. It was the first appearance of the four of them together representing the Royal Foundation. There was an interview that was done, and I wanted to pick certain parts of it to emphasize Megan's behavior. It's actually, I believe during this interview, Megan, there's like two parts that she talks a lot, and this is the first part. The second one, oh man, that's going to be another need for analysis, and that one's going to be huge too. So stay tuned for that because that will be coming as well. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to start with a preface, and I think this is what has set Megan's mood. And then I'll show you the entire clip of Megan speaking, and then I'll break it down into little parts. Based on what we know from Harry's autobiography, Spare, during this event backstage, Meghan asked to borrow Princess Catherine's lip gloss. And according to Harry, who must have heard this from Meghan, Catherine didn't seem very comfortable with it. I've made a video about this and how I felt that this is an example of Meghan trying to create false intimacy with Catherine. I'll link that in the description so that you can go and watch that video. It's pretty good and explains why this was just so weird. When the interview begins, Prince William is asked some questions, then Princess Catherine. And during Princess Catherine's response, you can see Meghan recoiling already. And I think that lip gloss incident and what Princess Catherine said when she was speaking really put Meghan in an erratic kind of state, I would say. So let's begin. I'm going to show you that clip of Princess Catherine speaking. Here we go.
Mental health just kept on flagging up every time, whether it's with addiction or school support, and with vulnerable young children. So it's something that I felt very passionate about. It's obviously such a huge topic. It wasn't as big as I actually thought it was, but it was something that I think all three of us at the time felt that we really could make a far bigger impact together on, rather than just one of us acting alone on it. It's obviously such a huge topic. It wasn't as big as I actually thought it was, but
So I already see envy showing here. Catherine emphasizes the collaborative nature of the foundation, noting that the three of them, William, Harry, and herself, believe they could make a bigger impact together. She expresses humility in realizing that the issue is much bigger than she initially thought. It shows a willingness to learn rather than to assert dominance. This sets a tone of teamwork rather than individual achievement. I've said before that Megan is a competitor and not a collaborator. Narcissists struggle with genuine collaboration because they view relationships through a lens of competition rather than teamwork. Rather than working alongside others to achieve a shared goal, they seek to assert dominance, outshine their peers, or subtly diminish others' contributions to elevate their own status. They may downplay the significance of collective efforts, instead emphasizing their personal expertise, past successes, or unique vision. And we are going to see that throughout this interview. Even in environments that encourage unity, narcissists see collaboration as a threat to their individual recognition, leading them to subtly undermine teammates, dismiss others' ideas, or frame themselves as the true driving force behind any success. Their need for superiority makes them resistant to compromise, so they often believe that their perspective is the most valuable or enlightened. The other thing I want to mention, and I think this is like, it's a really big topic for me, is narcissists and the envy of their partner's past. You can see Meghan's face drop the minute Princess Catherine talks about the three of them, meaning Prince William, Prince Harry, and herself. Let's watch that clip one more time.
It was something that I think all three of us at the time felt that we really could make a far bigger impact together. But it was something that I think all three of us at the time felt that we really could make a far bigger impact together.
What in the world is this, right? I never understood this. A narcissist can feel envious or even resentful of their partner's past experiences, particularly those that existed before their presence in the partner's life. They often struggle with the idea that their partner once had meaningful relationships, accomplishments, or defining moments that had nothing to do with the narcissist. This envy can manifest in dismissive comments, subtle belittling, or attempts to rewrite history by downplaying their partner's past or portraying themselves as the most significant figure in their partner's life. They may also seek to assert control by shifting the narrative, emphasizing how much better their partner's life has become since their arrival. This insecurity can drive them to compete with past friendships, ex relationships, or previous achievements, making them hypersensitive to any mention of their partner's history that does not center around them. I am sure many of you listening to this have experienced this. In fact, I believe this is one of the main motivations of why my stepmom, who is a malignant narc, treated me the way that she did. I was a reminder that my dad had a past, and she could not stand it. What I want to do now is show you the entire clip of Megan speaking, and this is the clip that we'll be analyzing bit by bit. I think it's important to see the big picture of what is said in this short video. I think it's about a minute long, and then we'll break it down. So here we go.
It would be interesting to find out, first of all, your impressions of the Royal Foundation so far and what you're hoping to do. Don't be too critical.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, obviously it's incredibly exciting. And yes, I think for me, it's been a very long time working on cause-driven work, specifically with women and girls' rights. But, to see the model of the foundation is really interesting because while I've worked with larger NGOs, I've also worked with really small grassroots organizations where you can see a higher level of impact, in my opinion, because there's a lot less red tape. What you're seeing here, and what I noticed with Heads Together from a global perspective, because I wasn't here obviously when it was happening, was the power of convening all of these smaller organizations who have the same issue but need that extra push and support under this umbrella. You're able to achieve that, and the impact they all made with Heads Together was tremendous. So I'm very excited to be able to work on initiatives similarly and that can have that same sort of impact.
Did you hear it? I heard so many insecurities and feelings of superiority and just so much all in that 1 minute long clip. Without further ado, let's start with the first portion of this interview. Here it is played back again.
It would be interesting to find out, first of all, your impressions of the Royal Foundation so far and what you're hoping to do. Don't be too critical.
Yeah, no, of course.
The Royal Foundation so far and what you're hoping to do. Don't be too critical.
Yeah, no, of course.
Okay, let's get into it. The interviewer's "don't be too critical" remark is lighthearted, but Megan's laugh and response indicate an underlying belief that she has strong opinions and judgments to offer. The laughter might be masking an internal sense of superiority, as if she does, in fact, have critical thoughts but is choosing not to voice them. Megan's response could be interpreted as compensating for not being around as long within the Royal Foundation. When asked about her impressions, she immediately laughs and responds with, "Yeah, no, of course," which may indicate an awareness that she is the newcomer and needs to establish her place. This moment reflects a self consciousness about her lack of history with the organization, leading her to navigate her response carefully. This type of behavior seems to be some sort of compensation where someone who's new to a well established group feels the need to assert their value quickly. If someone with narcissistic tendencies were in this position, they would counteract feelings of being less than by subtly asserting expertise or redirecting the conversation toward their personal background. Megan later in the video talks about all of her past experiences, and I believe this is an attempt to balance the power dynamic by highlighting her qualifications and trying to validate her presence and authority in this new setting. Let's move on to the next clip.
Well, obviously it's incredibly exciting. And yes, I think for me, it's been a very long time working on cause-driven work, specifically with women and girls' rights. Well, obviously it's incredibly exciting. And yes, I think for me, it's been a very long time working on cause-driven work, specifically with women and girls' rights.
Okay, Megan immediately redirects the focus to herself rather than engaging with Catherine's previous point about collaboration. The phrase that she says, "it's been a very long time," implies experience and expertise, potentially positioning herself as more accomplished in this space than her new royal counterparts. She frames herself as an authority on women and girls' issues, subtly suggesting that she has been doing this work long before she joined the foundation. Megan's response could be seen as an attempt to establish her expertise, and I believe that she is exaggerating her actual work to enhance her perceived value in the group. When she says, "Obviously, it's incredibly exciting, and yes, I think for me, it's been a very long time working on college driven work, specifically women's and girls' rights," she immediately shifts the focus to herself and her past experience rather than directly engaging with the foundation's work. The phrase, "for me, it's been a very long time," suggests deep rooted experience, yet her specific contributions in philanthropy before joining the royal family were not widely documented at the same level as major global activists. While she was involved in certain causes and charity work, I believe this is an overstatement of the scale or impact of her prior work to align herself as an authority in the room. People with narcissistic tendencies inflate their past accomplishments to ensure they are seen as equal or even superior to those around them. In this case, Megan's phrasing reflects an effort to validate her presence within the foundation by subtly positioning herself as an experienced leader rather than a newcomer who is still learning. This could be a way of counteracting any feelings of being an outsider or less established compared to William and Catherine and Harry, who had already been deeply involved in the foundation for years. Okay, let's move on to the next clip.
But, to see the model of the foundation is really interesting because while I've worked with larger NGOs, I've also worked with really small grassroots organizations where you can see a higher level of impact, in my opinion, because there's a lot less red tape. But, to see the model of the foundation is really interesting because while I've worked with larger NGOs, I've also worked with really small grassroots organizations where you can see a higher level of impact, in my opinion, because there's a lot less red tape.
Wow, 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 right? Okay, let's talk about this part. Okay, so she contrasts her past experience with the foundation structure, implying her prior work was more effective. The phrase, "in my opinion," suggests asserting authority as if she is evaluating their model and finding it less efficient. She mentions less red tape, which could be subtly diminishing the bureaucracy of royal charities, implying they are less effective than what she has experienced before. Megan's response subtly elevates herself above the royal foundation by implying that her past experiences have been more effective or impactful. When she states, "To see the model of the foundation is really interesting because while I've worked with larger NGOs, I've also worked with really small grassroots organizations where you can see a higher level of impact, in my opinion, because there's a lot less red tape." She's drawing a direct comparison between her previous work and the structure of the Royal Foundation. She highlights her involvement with grassroots organizations, and she positions herself as someone with hands on experience who understands the direct impact better than large bureaucratic institutions, which, by implication, includes the Royal Foundation. This statement, in my opinion, is a subtle critique of the foundation's structure. suggesting that the organization may not be as efficient or effective due to its size and administrative processes. Instead of integrating herself into the existing framework, Megan's words imply an outsider's evaluation, almost as if she is assessing the foundation rather than expressing enthusiasm to be part of it. This, in my opinion, is an attempt for her to assert superiority, framing herself as someone who has worked in spaces where real change happened, contrasting it with the royal model, which she suggests may be hindered by red tape. People with narcissistic tendencies often seek to position themselves as uniquely insightful or more effective than the established system they are joining, which aligns with the way Megan's response seems to subtly set her experience apart from and possibly above the work of the Royal Foundation. Okay, let's go on to the last clip that I will talk to you about. Well, this is the second to last clip. The very last clip, I don't have a lot to say, and I'm going to put it at the very end of the video. And yeah, I would be interested if there's any comments you have about that very last section. So that will be after I say my goodbyes. But this will be the video I'll show you now is the last one I will talk about before we close this video. So here we go.
What you're seeing here, and what I noticed with Heads Together from a global perspective, because I wasn't here obviously when it was happening. What you're seeing here, and what I noticed with Heads Together from a global perspective, because I wasn't here obviously when it was happening.
Okay, so this is the part of the video that I think Megan really revealed herself. And the part of it that I believe she reveals herself is when she says, I wasn't here obviously when it was happening. But before we get into that, let's start from the words she says at first. The phrase from a global perspective suggests that she sees herself as an outsider with a broader worldview, implying a higher level of awareness compared to those who are inside the royal system. The phrase, I wasn't here, obviously, when it was happening, is subtly distancing herself from the initiative while still offering her insight, a way of inserting herself into the narrative. Megan's statement, what you're seeing here and what I noticed with Heads Together from a global perspective, because I wasn't here, obviously, when it was happening, could suggest some underlying hurt or frustration about not being part of the initiative from the beginning. The way she phrases it, I wasn't here, obviously, carries an air of self awareness that she is an outsider to the original work. By making this distinction, she's acknowledging a sense of exclusion, and she's trying to reconcile the fact that she was not involved when the initiative was first launched. This, in my opinion, reflects a desire to assert her relevance despite joining later, which can be common for individuals with narcissistic tendencies who want to be seen as central figures in any environment they enter. Instead of simply expressing enthusiasm for the initiative, she frames her perspective as coming from a global point of view, which could be an attempt to differentiate her contributions from those who were there from the start. This subtle distinction, positioning herself as someone with a broader and possibly more worldly perspective, may be a way to counterbalance the fact that she was not originally included. If she does feel hurt or envious about not being part of the foundation from the beginning, this statement is a way of compensating by reframing her absence as an asset rather than a limitation. The overall themes related to narcissism that I see in these video clips is this air of self importance. Megan repeatedly references her past work in a way that emphasizes her expertise and background rather than embracing the collaborative nature of the foundation. We see competitiveness and superiority. There is an underlying sense of comparison where she implies that her experience working with NGOs and grassroots movements are perhaps more effective than the Royal Foundation's approach. We see an envy and a need to assert value. Rather than aligning with Catherine's sentiment of working together, Megan's responses frequently redirect to her own experiences, potentially reflecting a desire to position herself as equally, and I actually think more accomplished. She's also critiquing established structures. And keep in mind, this is before she even has officially joined the royal family. She's already showing this arrogance and lack of collaborative effort, and already just I don't know, she's already demonstrating that she has negative feelings for the work they do. She critiques established structures. By pointing out red tape and bureaucracy, she's subtly criticizing the existing system, and it reflects a sense of wanting to change or disrupt rather than integrate. Throughout this interview, Megan's responses suggest a subtle yet persistent effort to assert her expertise, validate her presence, and elevate her past experiences in comparison to the Royal Foundation's established work. Rather than fully integrating into the collaborative spirit emphasized by Catherine, William, and Harry, Meghan redirects the conversation to her own background experiences and global perspective, which could be seen as a compensatory mechanism for being new to the foundation. Her remarks about working with grassroots organizations, cutting through red tape, and observing from a global perspective, I believe, are Meghan's attempts to position herself as uniquely qualified and superior to the existing royal charitable model. Additionally, there are subtle cues suggesting competitiveness and potential envy, particularly when referencing her absence during key initiatives. Her comment about not being here obviously indicates a sense of exclusion, as if she regrets not having been part of the foundation's formative work. This pattern aligns with traits often associated with narcissistic behavior, where individuals seek to assert dominance, reframe narratives to center themselves, and subtly critique existing structures to highlight their own strengths. Meghan is navigating this interview not as a new team member, but as someone striving to establish herself at minimum as equal, but more likely as superior in the conversation. So I'm curious to know what you all think about this. There's a lot more to uncover in the next part of this Fab Four interview because Meghan, I mean, she is hurt about working in the background and, oh my, because she mentions it multiple times how she's working quietly behind the scenes. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be an analysis that is on my to-do list. I'm curious to know what you all thought about this. If this was interesting to you, please leave comments, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified anytime I post a new video. Share this with your friends, see if anyone would be interested in watching it. I appreciate all the support. At the end of my goodbye, I will put in that very last part of the interview that I really didn't have much comments about, but if you have anything to say about it, please drop that in the comments. I appreciate you all being here and listening, and I will talk to you all soon. Goodbye.
Was the power of convening all of these smaller organizations who have the same issue but need that extra push and support under this umbrella. You're able to achieve that, and the impact they all made with Heads Together was tremendous. So I'm very excited to be able to work on initiatives similarly and that can have that same sort of impact. Was the power of convening all of these smaller organizations who have the same issue but need that extra push and support under this umbrella. You're able to achieve that, and the impact they all made with Heads Together was tremendous. So I'm very excited to be able to work on initiatives similarly and that can have that same sort of impact.